in the misty peaks of the Cascade Mountains, where ancient forests whisper secrets to the wind, lived a young woman named Ilara. She wasn't your typical adventurer. She was a quiet soul, a botanist who found more comfort in the company of trees than people. Her days were spent sketching rare flowers and charting the growth of mosses, a peaceful, solitary existence. But one crisp autumn afternoon, her world was about to change forever. While tracking a rare species of bioluminescent mushroom, she stumbled upon a set of footprints so massive, so impossibly large, they defied all explanation. Her scientific mind told her it was a prank, a clever hoax. But her heart, a more intuitive guide, felt a pull, a strange sense of curiosity mixed with an unexplainable empathy. Driven by this feeling, Ilara began leaving small offerings near the tracks. A handful of wild berries, a smooth riverstone, a brightly colored feather. Days turned into weeks, and each time she returned, the offerings were gone, replaced by something else. A perfectly carved wooden bird, a delicate wreath of intertwined ferns, a crystal that shimmered with an inner light. It was a silent conversation, a bridge being built between two worlds. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that she was communicating with the legendary creature of the mountains, the Sasquatch. But this wasn't the monster of folklore. This was a gentle, intelligent being. Finally, the day came. As she approached her usual spot, a towering figure emerged from behind a curtain of ancient pines. It was immense, covered in shaggy dark fur, with eyes that held the wisdom of 1,000 winters. Fear was her first instinct, a primal urge to run. But as she looked into those deep, soulful eyes, all fear melted away, replaced by a profound sense of awe and recognition. There was no menace there, only a deep, profound loneliness. She tentatively raised her hand, and the creature, which she would come to call Kale, mirrored the gesture with its own colossal hand, stopping just inches from hers. In that moment, an unspoken pact was formed, a friendship that transcended species, language, and the understanding of the outside world. Their days together became a secret, sacred routine. Kale, with his intimate knowledge of the forest, led Ilara to hidden waterfalls and groves of trees that touched the sky. He showed her which plants held healing properties and which berries were sweetest. He communicated through a series of low, melodic rumbles and surprisingly articulate gestures. He would sit for hours, patient and still, as she sketched him, capturing the gentleness that lay beneath his formidable exterior. Ilara, in turn, shared her world with him. She read him poetry from her worn-out books, her voice a soft melody against the backdrop of the forest's symphony. She played him music from a small, battery-powered radio, and watched amused as he cocked his head, fascinated by the strange sounds of a world he'd never known. She discovered he was the last of his kind, a solitary guardian of a dying world. The loneliness she had first sensed in his eyes was a burden he had carried for centuries. In Ilara, he found a kindred spirit, a flicker of light in his long, lonely existence. And in Kale, Ilara found a connection deeper than any she had ever known, a sense of belonging she had long searched for in the human world, but only found in the heart of the wilderness. Their bond was a testament to the idea that friendship isn't about similarity, but about understanding and acceptance. They were two lonely souls who found solace in each other's company, a botanist and a beast, sharing silent afternoons under the canopy of the great woods. But the world of man has a long reach, and secrets as big as Kale rarely stay hidden for long. Loggers began to encroach further into the mountains, their chainsaws screaming a song of destruction that tore at the fabric of Kale's home. One day, a group of hunters, drawn by rumors and the promise of a legendary prize, ventured deep into the forest. Ilara pleaded with Kale to hide, to retreat to the highest, most inaccessible peaks where no one could find him. But Kale was a guardian. To flee was not in his nature. He stood his ground, not as a monster, but as a protector of his domain. The first time the hunters saw him, they were struck with terror and awe. They fired their rifles, not out of malice, but out of fear of what they couldn't understand. Ilara arrived to a scene of chaos. Kale was wounded, but his concern was not for himself. He gently pushed her behind him, shielding her with his massive body, roaring a challenge that shook the very mountains. The hunters, seeing the creature's ferocity and protective nature, hesitated. In that moment, they didn't see a beast. They saw a guardian. They slowly lowered their weapons and retreated, leaving the forest in a stunned silence, broken only by Kale's labored breathing. Ilara rushed to his side, her tears mixing with the rain that had begun to fall. The wound was deep. She did everything she could, using the knowledge of healing plants he himself had taught her, but his ancient life force was fading. He lay beneath the oldest pine in the forest, the one they had often sat under. He looked at her, his wise eyes filled not with pain, but with gratitude. He lifted a weak hand and touched her cheek, a final, gentle gesture. With one last, soft rumble, the light in his ancient eyes dimmed, and the great, lonely guardian of the mountain was still. The forest seemed to hold its breath, mourning the loss of its oldest soul. Ilara sat with him for a long time, her heart shattered into a million pieces. The friendship that had given her so much joy had ended in the deepest sorrow imaginable. She had found a connection that transcended worlds, only to have it snatched away by the world she came from. Years passed, Ilara never left the mountains. She became their new guardian, a fierce protector of the wilderness that held the memory of her dearest friend. She dedicated her life to preserving the forest, ensuring no one would ever again harm the magic that lived within it. The lagers were pushed back, the area declared a protected reserve, all thanks to her tireless efforts. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, when the mist rolls down the peaks, she sits beneath that ancient pine tree. She reads poetry aloud, her voice carrying on the wind, hoping that somewhere in the great, silent forest beyond, her lonely friend can still hear her. The story of the girl and the Sasquatch became a local legend, a whisper among the pines, a heartbreaking reminder that the most beautiful connections are often the most fragile, and that the greatest love sometimes comes with the deepest sorrow.